It was long past midnight. Max sat alone in his dark room, his only light the flickering glow of the phone in his hand. His only company, the endless stream of videos that emanated from the screen. The screen's endless stream of videos hummed softly, a hypnotic lullaby of distraction. He knew he should sleep. He knew that he ought to put his phone on silent, put it in the corner of the room, and try to get some sleep. He had to be up for school in the morning. But the feed never ended, and his appetite never faded. Like a ravenous zombie, he hungered insatiably for content, and there was always more content. Just one more video, he thought. 10 seconds. Just another 10 seconds. He flicked his thumb upwards, watching another video about something he'd forget in 10 seconds, and then another, and another. Before he knew it, he'd watched hundreds of 10-second clips, and another hour had passed into obscurity. His eyes burned, and his eyelids began to droop. His wrist began to fall limp, and yet he just couldn't put his phone down. Just one more video, he thought. This will be the last one, I promise. And that was when he saw it.
In 7 days, BrainRot will come for you.
His eyes widened, his stomach clenched, his fingers trembled. He dropped his phone, and when he picked it back up again, the video was gone. The next morning at school, Max nervously told his friend Jonas about the strange video. There was this creepy monster with a big exposed brain. Sometimes it was a demon, sometimes it was a beast, sometimes it was a zombie, and all the while there was this ticking sound like a clock, a sort of tick-tock, tick-tock. Forget about it, Jonas said, rolling his eyes. It was just a silly internet video. Just ignore it. But I felt it, Max whispered. You don't understand. I felt it. His voice trembled. It spoke to me. Oh yeah? Jonas said. What did it say? Well, it's hard to say, Max stammered. But it did say that in 7 days, BrainRot will come for me. Jonas shook his head. Just ignore it. Forget about it, he said dismissively. It's not worth getting emotional about. Max's eyes flickered with fear. You don't understand. During English class, Max was trying to concentrate, but he simply couldn't forget about that sound. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Wait a moment. That sound. He froze. His eyes darted around the room. Behind him, 3 boys stared at their phones, murmuring the same words. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Their faces blank, mouths slightly open, eyes vacant. That night, he stayed up again. With his phone in his hand, he searched the internet for BrainRot. Headline after headline popped up in front of him. The terrifying truth about BrainRot. BrainRot? Villain or victim? 10 things to know about BrainRot. Number 6 will amaze you. You won't believe what happens when you try this after watching the BrainRot video. The secret trick top influencers don't want you to know about BrainRot. This one simple hack will change BrainRot forever. BrainRot Live. Watch until the end for the shocking surprise. I watched BrainRot. Here's what really happened. The truth about BrainRot that they don't want you to know. Exposing the hidden agenda behind BrainRot. Are we really free from BrainRot? The secrets governments are hiding. The real story behind BrainRot. BrainRot cover-up, what they don't want you to discover. BrainRot changed my life. You need him too. I can't live without BrainRot. Must-have of the year. The secret weapon that boosts your BrainRot instantly. Transform your look with this BrainRot hack. Why everyone is talking about this game-changer BrainRot product. He didn't understand it. Some people loved BrainRot. Some people hated it. Some people feared it. Some people revered it. There were countless videos, articles and memes floating around the internet all talking about BrainRot. Some talked about government conspiracies. Some talked about how BrainRot was evil. Some talked about how BrainRot was misunderstood. And almost all of them were trying to sell something. But not a single video, article or clever meme could give Max what he truly needed. Information. What was BrainRot? Conspiracy theories, memes, endless speculation, but none of it explained what it truly was, what it wanted. Tiredness enveloped him like a shroud, and he fell asleep, clutching his phone. Suddenly, a loud, relentless tick-tock echoed in his ears. It grew louder, closer. The sound vibrated in his skull, pounding like a heartbeat. He shot upright in bed, sweat pouring down his face. His eyes darted to the window, and there, outside, stood the monster from the video. An emaciated, inhuman skeleton. Its exposed, pulsating brain bulged and swelled, vividly grotesque, with vacant, hollow eyes that seemed to stare straight into his soul. Its gnarled reptilian limbs slouched along slowly, heavily, unnaturally, as if dragged by an unseen force.
I'm coming for you, Max. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Suddenly, he was awake in his bed, drenched in cold sweat, the creature's voice echoing in his mind. The next day, Max sat at the back of class, cradling his phone in his hand. He had to find something, anything about BrainRot. He searched his social media feed, and there it was, a group. BrainRot Alliance in Noble Defiance, Everfield's Armed Defenders. He quickly joined the group, scanning the first post. If you are reading this, then you have seen the BrainRot video. He has appeared to you at night. He's coming for you. He feeds on your fear and your mind. You have 7 days from the time you first saw the video before he destroys you. A lump formed in Max's throat, swelling, threatening to choke the life out of him. Make no mistake, BrainRot is real. It is a demon, ancient, primal, and consummately evil. It feeds on minds, and once you've laid eyes upon it, it will torment you for 7 days before consuming your mind and turning you into one of its mindless vassals. There's only one way to stop him, and we alone have the answer. His heart began to race. Sweat leaked down the side of his temples, and his stomach tied itself in knots. Meet us at Albert Lake tonight at 11:45. We will fight him, we will defeat him, and we will survive. That night, Max snuck out, his hands moist and his eyes raw. In the distance he saw a strange gathering, dozens of people wearing metallic helmets of all shapes, standing silently around the lake. "Welcome, friend," said a member of the group, a peculiar metal hat perched upon his head. "I'm here," Max stammered. I'm here to fight BrainRot." "We know why you are here," said the man. "Here, take this hat and wear it." "Why?" asked Max. "BrainRot has the power to read your mind and manipulate your thoughts," he said. "This hat is made of tin. It's the only substance that can deflect BrainRot's powers. Wear it, and it will have no power over you." Max hastily pressed the cold tin hat to his head. "What is BrainRot?" Max asked, voice trembling. How can we fight it?" "BrainRot existed long before social media. It is a primal evil, ancient and powerful, which roots itself deep into the human mind. Some fear it, some love it. To some it is a demon, and to others it is a god. Today, BrainRot's psychic influence is spread via social media, videos, memes, articles. But before the internet, BrainRot implanted itself into newspapers, and before that, it was in the voices of town criers, preachers, and... A sound came from the forest. Tick-tock, tick-tock. A slow, menacing sound, growing louder and louder. "The hour is approaching midnight. We must go now." The group stalked through the woods, the sound echoing around them. Shadows danced as they moved deeper into the darkness. At a clearing, a hooded man appeared, cloaked in darkness. "There it is," the man whispered. "The manifestation of BrainRot." He pointed. Beneath a tattered cloth, a grotesque, pulsating brain burst from beneath the robes, eyes vacant, veins bulging. "There it is," Max said. "BrainRot. We must destroy it." One by one, the group began to remove their metal helmets. Max gasped. Beneath the helmets, huge, bulging brains burst out above vapid, vacant eyes. "Master," the man cried out, "please accept this humble sacrifice. Young Max from Everfield. Absorb him into yourself. Let him become one with BrainRot." But, cried Max. I won't become one of you." "Oh, but you will, young Max," said the man. "You see, some people fear BrainRot. Some people worship BrainRot. Some people hate BrainRot. Some people love BrainRot. But everyone who engages with BrainRot helps it to spread." The group closed in on Max. He tried to run, but escape was impossible. He struggled as they gripped his arms and legs and bound him with thick, scratchy rope. There's only one way to truly defeat BrainRot, a gravelly voice spoke, and that is to ignore him. BrainRot burst out from under his robes, marching towards Max, his teeth gnashing, gluttonous and insatiable, his bulging brain swollen with the psyches of thousands of lost souls. Just ignore it, Max said, crushing his eyes closed. Just ignore it.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
The next day, Jonas woke up to a message from Max. It was a video.
In 7 days, BrainRot will come for you.
Guys, so this is going to be the video where we learn some vocabulary and do some comprehension for the short story Tick-tock BrainRot. We're going to start with some vocabulary words. So we're going to go through some descriptive or atmospheric words. We're also going to go through some emotional or psychological words. We're also going to go through some supernatural or horror words and some modern context words as well. These are related to things like technology. And then we're going to go through some action words, some sensory words, and some abstract and thematic words. So first of all, we've got some descriptive and atmospheric words, which you can see on screen. The first word is an adjective, flickering. So when something is flickering, it's shining or burning unsteadily, or turning off and on again in rapid succession. So we might be looking at sort of a faulty light bulb or a flickering star in the distant sky. The example there is the flickering light from his phone made his shadow dance on the wall. The next word is another adjective, hypnotic. So when something is hypnotic, it holds your attention as if you were under a magic spell and kind of causes a trance-like state. So the example here is the hypnotic rhythm of scrolling made him lose track of time. Next word is an adjective, which is ravenous. When we say we are ravenous, it means we're really, really hungry, insatiably hungry. So we eat and eat or consume and consume and consume. So in this case, we have an example. He had a ravenous desire for more videos. So we're talking about a hunger for more videos. Next we have an adjective, which is insatiable, and its accompanying adverb, which is insatiably, which is basically impossible to satisfy. So if you have an insatiable appetite, then it doesn't matter how much you eat, you're never satisfied. So you always want more. The examples there are, she had an insatiable curiosity about the unknown, and he scrolled insatiably through the endless feed. The next word we have is a noun, which is obscurity. So obscurity is the state of being unknown, forgotten, or unclear. So if something is obscure, it's either hidden or not very well known. The example there is, his memories faded into obscurity as another hour passed. So that means his memories sort of just disappeared and he just sort of forgot about the past few hours. The last word on this page is vacant, which is an adjective. Vacant means empty. So when we describe a person as being vacant or having a vacant expression, it means that they show no emotion, no expression or thought. So the example sentence there is, the student stared with vacant eyes at their glowing screens. The next set of atmospheric words begins with an adjective, grotesque. So when something is grotesque, it means that it looks a bit unnatural, a bit frightening, a bit ugly, a bit strange, a bit uncanny. So the example there is the monster's grotesque features twisted into a grin. The next word is another adjective, emaciated. If you look emaciated, it means that you are so very thin, usually from illness or from hunger. So you'd be very, very skinny, bones would be visible, you'd be very gaunt, and quite frightening to look at. The example here is an emaciated figure appeared in the doorway, barely human. So this describes a figure where you'd be able to sort of see the bones and the ribs sort of sticking out. The next word is pulsating, which is another adjective. Pulsating is throbbing or beating rhythmically, like a heartbeat. So the example sentence here is, a pulsating light filled the dark room. So you can imagine, quite like the word flickering before, pulsating is more sort of like on for a bit, off for a bit, on for a bit, off for a bit, almost as if it's turning on and off with the beating of a heart, fading in and out. The next word is another adjective, which is gnarled. When something is gnarled, it's sort of twisted and rough, often with age or damage. So when you think of a tree trunk, it's usually sort of got rough. The branch of a tree is usually rough and twisted and knobbly. We could describe the twisting branches of a tree as being gnarled. So the example here is, the monster's gnarled hands reached toward him. The next word is menacing. This is another adjective. When something is menacing, it suggests danger or a threat or harm. So the example there is, a menacing shadow crept along the wall. The next word is relentless, another adjective. So when something is relentless, it just keeps going without stopping, without relenting. So it continues without pause or mercy. The example is, the relentless ticking echoed through his mind. Next up, we have some emotional and psychological words. So first of all, we have a verb, which is tremble, or to use the continuous form, trembling. When you tremble, you are shivering, shaking slightly, usually from anxiety, from nervousness, maybe from fear, or maybe from cold. So the example here is, he trembled as the sound of ticking grew louder. The next word is clench. So when you clench, you kind of close something up tightly, like your fist. You might close your fist and clench it tightly together. So this is usually done because of anger or fear. So he clenched his fists to stop them from shaking. Next up, we have the word torment, which can be a verb or a noun. In its verb form, to torment someone is to cause them suffering, to cause pain and anguish. And the noun, torment, as in your torment or my torment, is a description of your great pain or distress. So we have two examples here. The creature tormented his dreams every night. That's the verb form. And his mind was filled with torment. That's the noun form. The next word is another noun, which is defiance. So defiance comes from the verb defy. When we defy something, we break the rules. We stand against it. So defiance is open resistance, bold disobedience. You're breaking the rules and you don't care. You know you're doing it and you want to do it. So the example here is, the group called themselves Noble defiance against brain rot. Okay, the next word is another adjective, and it's the word fearful. So if you are full of fear, you are fearful. So the example here is, she gave him a fearful glance before looking away. So the next word is dread. Now, dread can be used as a noun or a verb. Dread means great fear about something that may happen. So the example here uses the noun form. A sense of dread filled him as midnight approached. But you could change that slightly and use the verb form of dread by saying, he dreaded the approach of midnight. The next words are anxious, which is an adjective, and anxiety, which is a noun. They both describe being worried and nervous, being apprehensive, the feeling of apprehension, or the feeling of unease. So when we describe somebody as feeling anxious, we are describing them as having a feeling of unease or worry. Anxiety is a description of that feeling itself. So we can see the example here. He felt anxious waiting for the monster to appear. So that's the adjective form. And the next term is anxiety made it hard for him to sleep. So that's the noun form. The next word that we have on here is obsession, which is the noun form, or obsessed, which is the adjective form. So an obsession is an idea or feeling that controls your thoughts. And if you are obsessed with something, it means you're unable to stop thinking about something. So the examples here are, his obsession with the video consumed his every thought. And in the adjective form, he became obsessed with finding the truth. The next word is a noun, paranoia. So paranoia is an irrational fear that people are watching or plotting against you. It's basically an unjustified level of skepticism, an unjustified level of worry about something happening. So the example there is, paranoia made him check behind his back every few minutes. So remember, if you have good reason to worry about something, that's not a description of paranoia. That would be more like anxiety. Paranoia is when anxiety gets to the point that you are suspicious of everything and everyone. Next, we'll be looking at some supernatural words or horror words. The first word is demon. A demon is an evil spirit or supernatural being. So the example sentence here is, they said BrainRot was a demon feeding on human minds. We also have the word beast, which is another noun. All of these words will be nouns. A beast is a large, wild, or frightening animal. So the beast let out a roar that shook the trees. Another noun word here is monster. A monster is an imaginary or mythical creature that is large, ugly, or frightening. A horrible monster with a swollen brain appeared in the window. Next we have the word vessel or vassal. So a vessel is a person or thing that contains something. So that could be something as simple as a cup, but in this case, in this context, a vessel is a person who sort of is being used by the monster. A vassal is a very similar word, basically serving a master. So in this context, as you can see from the example sentences, it says the cult members were vassals of the evil spirit, and he became a vessel for BrainRot's power. The next word is manifestation. So a manifestation is the appearance or sign of something, especially an idea or a spirit. So we can see an example sentence here. The foggy shape was a manifestation of the creature's power. So in the story, BrainRot, the creature, manifests in different forms, in the form of a demon or a beast or a monster or some kind of undead zombie thing. It keeps changing its form. So the manifestation of BrainRot is whatever it looks like at that time, whatever form it takes. The next word is a verb, consume, or to use the continuous form, consuming. So when we consume something, we use it up. We eat it, we destroy it, or in other ways, use it. So the examples here are: the fire was consuming the house, and he was consumed by fear. The next word is evil. Now, evil can be a noun or an adjective. So to use it as a noun, it's a force of great harm or wickedness, something very, very malevolent and bad. As an adjective, it's used to describe something ethically or morally bad. So the examples there are: the villagers believed the forest was filled with evil, which is the noun form, and he had an evil smile, which is the adjective form. Next we have the word possession, which is a noun, and the verb possess. So as a noun, possession is the state of being owned, controlled. So for example, in this context, possession is being controlled by a spirit, by a demon, by a malevolent force. And in the verb form, it means to take control of something or to own something. Now, outside of the context of the supernatural, possession is just a possession is something you own, and to possess something is just to own something. So there's nothing necessarily evil about this word, but in the terms of a supernatural story, possession refers to being inhabited by a spirit, by a demon. So the examples here are: the demon took possession of his mind, and the ghost possessed the old doll. The next word is sacrifice. So the noun form is sacrifice, the verb form is to sacrifice. A sacrifice is something which we give up. It may be something that we give to a god, or something that we give away, or something that we want, something that is valuable, but which we must give up, usually in exchange for something more important. Okay, so for example, you might have to, if for example you were injured, it might be that you have to sacrifice some of your belongings. If you have a broken leg or something, you might have to sacrifice your heavy belongings so that you can make the rest of the journey home, because it's more important to get home and you might not be able to carry the rest of your possessions. In this context, though, a sacrifice is usually a person who is killed or burned or something like that, or given up to the god or the demon or the monster or whatever it is, in order to please them or placate them. So that's a sacrifice, and to sacrifice is to give up that thing. So the example there is: the cult planned to make a human sacrifice, and he sacrificed his freedom to save his friend. Then we have ancient, which is an adjective, and it means very old, from a long time ago. So the example is: an ancient evil was buried beneath the town. Now when we talk about ancient things, we're usually talking about things which are 1,000 or several thousand years old. We're not talking about things that are 50 years old. We're talking about ancient things. So ancient Egyptian pyramids, ancient Roman Colosseum. We're not talking about things from, 1900. All right. Next, we have some modern context words. These are words that are related to technology and things from the modern age. So the first word is feed. Now this is a noun. Of course, we can use feed as a verb, as in to feed the cat or to feed ourselves. But in this case, we're talking about a social media feed, which is a continuous stream of updates or posts on social media. You scroll through your social media feed. So the example sentence here is, he scrolled endlessly through his TikTok feed. The next word is content. This is a noun again. Content is anything that we see on the internet, information, images, videos, articles, anything shown on websites or social media. So the example sentence is, creators upload new content every day. The next word is another noun, algorithm. So an algorithm is a set of computer rules that decide what appears on your screen. So when you go on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, an algorithm bases what you see on what you've looked at before and other people like you who've looked at similar things. How long have you engaged with it for? Did you comment on it? Did you like it? What did you skip over? What did you ignore? What did you scroll past? It takes all of this into account to try to give you things that you will engage with, to keep you looking at your screen for as long as possible. The next word is influencer. So an influencer is a person who gains attention online and affects others' opinions or behavior. So we have influencers on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of this sort of thing. And the example sentence here is, the influencer claimed to know the truth about BrainRot. The next word is a noun, headline. So a headline is the title of a news article. So the example there is, the headline screamed, the terrifying truth about BrainRot. Then we have clickbait, which is also a noun. Clickbait is a sensational title designed to make people click on a link. Clickbait titles are usually very vague, and they don't really tell you much about what the video is or what the article is. It's just got something designed to intrigue you so that you click the link. The example there is, number 6 will amaze you. The next word is an adjective, viral. So when something goes viral, it is spread and shared very quickly online. So you might get a viral video or a viral article. The example there is, the creepy video went viral overnight. So that means lots of people shared the video very quickly. And then we have speculation, which is also a noun. When we speculate on something, to use the verb, it's when we kind of guess at something without really knowing the answer, without any evidence. So the example there is, there was endless speculation about what brain rot really was. Next we have our action or sensory words. So as you can see, these are all verbs. The first verb is emanate. So when something emanates, it comes out from a source. A strange sound emanated from the woods. Then we have dart, or past tense, darted, which is to move quickly or suddenly. His eyes darted around the room in panic. The next word is clutch, which means to hold something tightly, usually in fear. He clutched his phone as if it could protect him. Then we have whisper, or past tense, whispered, which is to speak very softly, to whisper very quietly. He whispered the creature's name in the dark. And then we have echo, or echoed in the past tense, which is to repeat or resound something. So when we hear something again and again and again, we call that an echo. So the ticking echoed through the hallway. Another term here is grasp or grip, which means to hold something very firmly, quite similar to the word clutch that we looked at before. She grasped the rope to stop herself from falling. Then we have droop, or the continuous form drooping, which is when something sort of hangs down in a lazy way, to hang down or lose strength. So his eyelids drooped as he struggled to stay awake. So that's when your eyelids are kind of closing when you're falling asleep. Then we have stammer or stammered, which is to speak with repeated pauses or sounds because of fear or nervousness. So he stammered as he tried to explain what he saw. Then we have freeze, or past tense, froze, which is to stop suddenly from fear or surprise. The example here is he froze when he saw the shadow move. So he stopped moving suddenly out of fear. Then we have the word glance, which is to look very quickly, or stare, which is to look for a long time. So he glanced at the window and saw something staring back. Next we have some abstract words or thematic words. The first one is a noun, which is distraction. So a distraction is something that occupies your time or your thoughts and takes your attention away from something you should be doing. So for example, his phone was a constant distraction from reality. So we often look at our phones when we should be studying or working because they're such a distraction. Then we have addiction, also a noun. An addiction is something that we feel we need to do even if it's bad for us. It's often a strong and harmful need to keep doing something. So you may have an addiction to smoking or an addiction to social media. So the example here is social media addiction kept him awake all night. Then we have influence. So an influence is something that has the power to affect the way you think or the way you behave. So the app had a powerful influence on young people. So in this context, this story talks about the influence of social media on young people. And then we have conspiracy. A conspiracy is a secret plan made by a group of people who are collaborating together to do something harmful or illegal. So he read about a conspiracy linking the government to BrainRot. Then we have another set of nouns and some verbs. The first one is a noun, reality. So reality is the way things really are, the state of things as they actually exist. The example is, he began to lose track of reality after days without sleep. Then we have perception, which is another noun, which is the way you understand or interpret something. So his perception of the world changed after seeing the video. Next we have ignorance, which is a noun, and ignore, which is the verb form of that noun. Ignorance is your lack of knowledge, and to ignore something is to deliberately refuse to pay attention to something. So some examples there. His ignorance made him underestimate the danger, and they told him to ignore the video if he wanted to survive. Then we have corruption. Corruption is another noun. It means dishonest or illegal behavior. It can also mean decay. So when something sort of rots and decays, you can refer to that as corruption as well. The corruption of the mind began when he watched the first clip. So generally we use corruption to talk about turning something good or benign into something bad, dangerous or evil. Then we have control, which is a noun but can also be used as a verb, and manipulation, which is a noun. So these both mean the power to influence or direct people, and usually when we talk about manipulation, we're talking about using that power unfairly or for a duplicitous reason. So, for example, the creature sought control over every human mind. He realized he was being manipulated by the feed. Now we're going to play a game of reveal. So an image will be revealed gradually, and I want you to try to guess what is the most appropriate word for this image. So the word here is vacant. So we can see that the boys are looking with very sort of vacant expressions as they hold their phone. They're not really thinking about anything, their mouths are slightly open, and you can tell that they're just sort of drifting off into this hypnotic sense of empty, thoughtless nothingness. The boys' faces were vacant. The next image is associated with the word hypnotic. So we can see from the image that the people are looking in a sort of hypnotic, almost mesmeric, scary, empty sort of way that catches your attention and draws you in. A hypnotic stare. This next word is menacing. So as we can see, the creature has this menacing, scary, evil, dangerous look to him. The creature was menacing. This next word is stare. So you can see that the boy is staring out of the window. He stared out of the window. Next up, we're going to do a vocabulary matchup. So we're going to take some of the words that we've seen before and match them up to their definition. Here we can see a list of vocabulary words on the left and a list of definitions on the right. Take a moment to pause the video and join up the vocabulary words with their correct definitions. Well done. So now we can see the correct answers. So first of all, we have the word flickering, which means shining or burning unsteadily, like a flickering light or a flickering candle or a flickering phone screen. Then we have the word hypnotic, which means causing a trance-like or spellbound state. Then we have the word demon, which is an evil spirit or supernatural being, like the BrainRot monster. And then we have the word grotesque, which means very ugly or unnatural in a frightening way. Then we have emaciated, meaning extremely thin, often from hunger. And the word menacing, which is suggesting danger or threatening, like a menacing animal as it's about to attack. Then we have relentless, and relentless means continuing without pause or mercy. Next we have the word vacant, which means showing no emotion, empty. And then down at the bottom we have torment, which is great mental or physical suffering. And finally, defiance, meaning bold resistance, refusal to obey. Here's another list of vocabulary words and their definitions on the right. So once again, take the time to pause the video and match up the words to their definitions. Well done. So now we can see the word viral. So when something goes viral, it is spread quickly and shared online. In a short amount of time, lots of people share it and watch it. Then we have the word consume, which means to use up, eat, or destroy completely. We can use this to talk about food, like we consume food, but we can also use it to talk about other resources that we use up. Next we have the word ravenous, which means extremely hungry or greedy. A social media feed, which is a continuous stream of updates on social media. Manifestation, so a manifestation of something is the appearance or sign of something, in this case a demon or a monster. Next we have the word sacrifice, and remember this can be a noun or a verb. So to sacrifice is to give up something valuable, often to save others, and a sacrifice is the thing that you are giving up. Next we have the word clickbait, which is content you see on the internet which is shocking or exaggerated or vague, just in order to attract you to click on that article or that video. Next we have the word emanate, which is when something flows out of a source, exudes from something. And then we have the word tremble, which is to shake slightly from fear or from cold. And finally, clutch, which is to hold something tightly, to clasp onto something, to grasp it, often in fear. The next activity is a fill in the blanks activity. So we can see the different words at the top. We have 10 words to fill in. Insatiable, obsession, distraction, conspiracy, corruption, perception, influence, ignore, addiction, and manipulation. Now we can see that all of these are nouns, apart from one, which is the word ignore, which is a verb. So try filling these in. Pause the video and try to fill these in on your own and see how many you get right. So here we can see the answers. His obsession with the video made him forget to sleep. Social media addiction keeps many people awake at night. The phone became a constant distraction from real life. The app had a strong influence over how he thought and felt. A strange conspiracy theory said the video came from the government. His perception of reality began to change after the 7th day. They told him to ignore the video if he wanted to survive. The endless feed was designed for psychological manipulation. The creature's hunger for attention was insatiable. It could never be satisfied. The story showed the moral corruption of society in the digital age. Next, we have some short answer questions. So these are questions that you can just think about a little bit and write a sentence or so for your answer. Now, answers may be subjective, so if you pause the video here and write down your answers, then play the video again and we can see the answers that I've given. Now, of course, your answers don't have to be exactly the same as mine, just something relatively similar will be fine. Okay, so here are some answers to the questions before. So first of all, what does the word grotesque suggest about the appearance of the monster? Now I've written, it suggests something fearful, unnatural, ugly, and unsettling. So when we talk about things which are grotesque, it's usually used to talk about something that would have appeared naturally, but has been in some way perverted, corrupted, deformed, damaged, twisted in some way. So with the monster BrainRot, he has features of a human. So he has a bulging brain, which humans obviously have a brain as well, but we wear it on the inside, not the outside. And he has features which are somewhat human-like, but monstrous because they appear to be sort of twisted or broken or emaciated or changed in some way that makes them look fearful or unnatural. The next word is hypnotic. So if something is hypnotic, how can it affect a person's behavior? So I've written it would make them fall into a trance, unable to focus on anything else. So when we describe something as hypnotic, we usually mean that it captures our attention in such a way that we can't really look away from it or focus on anything else. But strictly speaking, hypnotic means something that would make you fall asleep. So if you have medication and it's described as a hypnotic, it's a medication you would take that would make you fall asleep. But that's not usually how we describe things. When we describe something as hypnotic, we don't usually mean that it actually makes you fall asleep. You might use a different word like soporific, which would describe something that actually sends you to sleep. Final question, in your own words, what does brain rot represent in modern society? So this is a very subjective question. You might have different answers to me. So I've written the decline in quality content and the proliferation of easily consumable, meaningless content. It also represents the spread of misinformation online and the resultant truth decay that is occurring. So you might see other things that brain rot represents in modern society. You might see it as more representative of social media addiction, or you might see it as a failure of maybe parenting, because you never see any parents in the story at all, do you? So maybe someone might pick up on that and say, oh, this is showing that absentee parents are a terrible thing for children because they become addicted to their phones, or they start to look to the internet for belonging and things like that. So it's a very subjective question. You might have different ideas about what it represents. Some people may say that it doesn't represent anything. It's just about a spooky monster that appears when you watch an internet video. There's nothing wrong with that answer either. So what does it mean? It means basically whatever you define it to mean. But the way to write this answer would be that you would need to provide some kind of evidence for why you believe it means what it means. Next, we'll do some comprehension activities. So first of all, why couldn't Max put down his phone even though he knew he should sleep? So pause the video now and answer that question. So the answer is that he was addicted to the endless stream of short videos and kept telling himself just one more, unable to stop, even though he was tired. You might also write something like he was on his phone, or he was doom scrolling, or he was addicted to watching short form, meaningless content again and again and again. Many different answers that you could put here. Next question. What disturbing message appeared in the video Max saw late at night? So pause the video here and think about your answer. The video said, "In 7 days, brain rot will come for you." The next question is, how did Max's friend Jonas react when Max told him about the brain rot video? So pause the video here and answer that question. The answer is that Jonas dismissed the video and told Max to forget about it, saying it was just a silly internet video and not to give it any attention. The next question is, what strange behaviour did Max notice from other students during English class? Now you can see in the picture the behaviour they were exhibiting when he looked behind him. So what were they doing? What was going on? The answer is, he heard the sound tick-tock and saw 3 boys behind him staring blankly at their phones, repeating tick-tock with empty, vacant expressions. Next question. What kind of information did Max find online when he searched for brain rot? So pause the video here and think of your answer. He found countless videos, articles and memes, some calling brain rot evil, others praising it, but none could explain what brain rot truly was, and all of them seemed to be selling something. Next question. How was the monster from the video described when it appeared to Max in his garden? So pause the video here and think about your answer. So the monster was described as a grotesque, emaciated skeleton with an exposed pulsating brain, hollow eyes, and reptilian limbs. So when we talk about reptilian limbs, it means like the limbs of a lizard, like scaly or almost inhuman, more akin to sort of a snake or a lizard or a crocodile than to a human being. So the next question, what did the online group BrainRot Alliance in Noble Defiance, Everfield's Armed Defenders, claim about the brainrot creature? So pause the video here and decide on your answer. They said it was a demon that feeds on minds, tormenting victims for 7 days before turning them into mindless servants. Next question, and this is a fairly easy one. Maybe you noticed it when you were watching the video. What does the online group BrainRot Alliance in Noble Defiance, Everfield's Armed Defenders spell if it's turned into an acronym? So, BrainRot Alliance in Noble Defiance, Everfield's Armed Defenders spells brain dead, B-R-A-I-N-D-E-A-D. So when someone is brain dead, it means that their body is still alive, but their brain, unfortunately, is not, and they are being kept alive by a machine. But brain dead can also be used to refer to people who are not very critical in their thinking abilities. So it's a little bit of foreshadowing. If anybody spots that the group that are supposedly going to fight brain rot are actually called brain dead, you might be able to figure out early on that this group is not actually there to fight brain rot, but is actually just a group of brain rot's vassals, and they themselves are essentially brain dead because they're not thinking for themselves anymore. Brain rot is controlling them. Next question. Why did the group members wear metal helmets when Max met them at the lake? So specifically, they wear helmets made out of tin. But why do they wear these, or what reason do they give for wearing them? Okay, so the answer is that the group claimed the tin helmets would block BrainRot's power to read and control their thoughts, but the real reason was to cover up their exposed, rotting brains. Next question. What did the group leader say about the origins and history of BrainRot before the internet? So pause it here and think of your answer. He said BrainRot existed long before social media, spreading through newspapers, preachers, and even town criers. So he's claiming that BrainRot had existed in a different form before social media. Next question. What was revealed to be the true way to defeat BrainRot at the end of the story? So pause it here and think of your answer. Okay, so it turned out that the only real way to defeat BrainRot was to simply ignore BrainRot and not engage with the video or any of the BrainRot stuff on the internet at all. Okay, so next up we're going to do a bit of inference. So inference is a message that you may have picked up from the story that isn't directly said within the story itself. So let's start with the first question. The story is a form of social commentary. It is a warning about a social problem within society. What do you think the story is really warning us about? Now remember, of course, that there may be different answers to this question. People may pick up on different things. There may be things that you don't notice. There may be things that are interpreted in different ways. So have a good old think about it and pause the video now and then come back with an answer. Okay, so remember, this is just a sample answer. It may differ from your answer, but the sample answer here is BrainRot is a warning about overuse of social media, doom scrolling, and the rise of misinformation, clickbait, and low-quality content on the internet. The demon BrainRot, who takes many different forms, represents the dangers of sharing misinformation on the internet. It also represents the hypnotic effects that short-form, low-quality content can have on people. When misinformation is shared on the internet, it doesn't matter if you love it, hate it, believe it, or criticize it. Every time you interact with that content, more people see it. The only way to stop the spread of misinformation and low-quality junk content is to report it and ignore it. Don't share it, don't engage with it, and don't try to fight it by arguing with people in the comments section. Just ignore it. BrainRot's followers wear hats made of tin. This is ostensibly to protect them from BrainRot's influence, although later it is revealed to be a disguise. So why did the author choose hats made of tin instead of hats made of iron or hats made of steel or something else? What do you think the reason is for that? Pause the video now and have a think about it. So the hats made of tin are a reference to tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. These are people who believe in conspiracy theories and wear hats made of aluminium foil, believing it protects the brain from mind control, government surveillance, or other external influences like electromagnetic fields or telepathy. The term is often used metaphorically to describe someone who is paranoid or believes in unusual, unproven theories, with its origin in Julian Huxley's 1927 short story, The Tissue Culture King. Ironically, a 2005 MIT study found that such hats can actually amplify certain radio frequencies instead of blocking them. So what we're talking about here is basically a group of people who you might find on the internet who are described as tinfoil hat brigade or the tinfoil hat army or something like that. And they're people who tend not to believe evidence and they kind of fill in things with paranoid conspiracy theories about things which are completely unproven or that have been proven to be untrue. So the reference here is that the group, the brain dead group, who Max speaks with, actually represent the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory people who are on the internet, because they themselves believe they've not been taken in, or that they haven't been fooled. But in reality, of course, they've been completely fooled and are now completely part of the thing that they think they're fighting against. Next, we're going to move on to some expressions. So these are some expressions you will see in the story itself, and we're going to just talk about why they're used. So we can see, first of all, the flickering glow of the phone in his hand. So this is visual imagery. It creates atmosphere and symbolizes isolation. We get the feeling of the darkness in the room, and the only sense of sort of warmth or comfort seems to emanate from the phone. So this creates a sort of creepy, lonely image of Max sitting in his bedroom staring at his phone. Next up, we have the expression a hypnotic lullaby of distraction. So this is a metaphor. It compares the phone's videos to a lullaby, something that would normally put you to sleep. And in this case, it's something that is soothing, but also traps you. So whilst what he's doing on his phone isn't particularly stimulating, he can't seem to stop doing it. So it's not like he's doing anything particularly engaging. He's just passively receiving content. And despite this, he can't seem to put it down, and he seems to be in some kind of trance. So this kind of imagery is used to talk about the element of addiction and the element of almost this mesmeric, hypnotic feeling that he is experiencing, that he can't seem to escape from. The next expression, like a ravenous zombie, he hungered insatiably for content. So this is an example of a simile, like a ravenous zombie. So it's comparing Max and his social media addiction, his content addiction, to be very similar to the way that a mindless zombie would ravenously consume human flesh. But instead of consuming human flesh, he's insatiably consuming content. So we use this kind of language to express the fact that he is completely addicted and cannot really stop consuming content. There's an endless amount of content, and he just keeps gobbling it all up for hours and hours and hours. And he's not learning anything. He's not even really being stimulated, which is where we get the imagery of the zombie. You know, the mindless zombie that just goes towards the thing it wants without really thinking about it, because it's a completely mindless animal. The next expression here is another hour had passed into obscurity. So this is another example of a metaphor for time disappearing unnoticed. So when we talk about an hour passing into obscurity, obscurity is the state of something being hidden or unknown. So what we're saying here is that if Max were to think about what he's done for the last hour or the hour before that, he wouldn't really be able to tell you. He hasn't done anything but stare at his phone, and he probably doesn't even remember any of the videos he's watched. This next expression is tiredness enveloped him like a shroud. So this is a simile which foreshadows death and hopelessness. Now, a shroud is something, it's something that you wear, or something that is put on you when you die. So it's something that you are buried in. So when we talk about someone being wrapped up like a shroud, it's a deliberate use of a noun associated with death or associated with hopelessness. And we do this deliberately because we want to kind of subtly imply that Max's tiredness is kind of killing him. Now, it's not literally killing him, but it's kind of killing his personality. It's kind of destroying his brain to a point where he's unable to really concentrate on anything, unable to think about anything properly. He's just kind of become this mindless consumer. So we use language like this to sort of give some sort of portent of doom or hopelessness or fear, or to create a gloomy sort of atmosphere. This is the reason we don't say tiredness enveloped him like a sweater or a jumper, because if we were to say that, it would sound quite cozy and quite nice. So a shroud is something scary and macabre. The next expression is the sound vibrated in his skull, pounding like a heartbeat. So this is an example of sensory imagery. So the reason the sound pounds through his skull like a heartbeat is designed to sort of illuminate the fact that his heart is racing, and this is due to the anxiety and fear that the sound is creating within him. So it's almost like a racing heartbeat, which is a portent of potential danger. So you'll notice that in horror movies, when there's a moment of tension or something looming round the corner, something about to jump out, if you listen carefully, you'll hear a very subtle heartbeat. And they do this all the time in horror movies. They have a little heartbeat in the background, and usually that heartbeat might be getting faster, or it's already going quite fast as it is. And the idea behind that is to try to make your heartbeat quicken as you become more anxious and afraid of whatever the danger is. The next expression is eyes vacant, mouths slightly open. Now, you'll notice, of course, this is visual imagery. We have the image of the eyes, which are not really focused on anything and are not really paying attention to anything important, and mouths slightly open, suggesting an almost trance-like state. But what you'll also notice is that this sentence is very succinct. It just says eyes vacant, mouths slightly open. It doesn't say their eyes were vacant and their mouths were slightly open. What this is designed to do is just to punch in the imagery very quickly. Eyes vacant, mouths slightly open, to try to get you to envision what these people looked like very quickly, and to bring that image to the forefront of your mind straight away. The next expression is sweat leaked down the side of his temples and his stomach tied itself in knots. So what we've got here is a very physical description of anxiety. So when we're feeling very scared, very anxious, we may begin sweating even when we're not hot, and we may also start to feel the blood leaving our stomach and entering different parts of our body in case we need to run or fight. And this is quite a common and familiar physical manifestation of anxiety or fear. So what we're doing here is just describing what Max is feeling physically so that we can show the anxiety he is feeling emotionally. Another example of this is in the following expression: hands moist and eyes raw. This is another visual description of how Max is feeling, a physical description of how he is feeling. So when your hands are moist, that's usually because of nervousness, fear, anxiety. And if your eyes are raw, it suggests he's very, very tired and has probably been awake for longer than he should have been, probably due to fear and paranoia. The next expression, shadows danced as they moved deeper into the darkness. This is an example of something called anthropomorphic personification. So the shadows danced. What that means is basically that the shadows were moving about almost as if they're alive, almost as if they have a will of their own. So this creates this imagery of a living, palpable darkness that's sort of moving around you as you move further and further into that dark realm. So this intensifies the suspense and shows that Max is moving into a place which is dangerous, a place where he will not be safe, and a place where he won't be able to see anything except dancing shadows which he can't really understand or see properly. The next expression is a description of brain rot. So it says, his bulging brain swollen with the psyches of thousands of lost souls. So this is an example of grotesque imagery and a metaphor for digital overconsumption. So not only at the beginning here we're getting a description of what the monster itself looks like with this big bulging, pulsating, swollen brain, but in the second half of the sentence we have a reason for why the brain is swollen and bulging, and that's because there are the psyches or the minds or the souls, if you prefer, of thousands of people that brain rot has affected and absorbed into himself. So this is a good metaphor for basically the thousands or possibly millions of people in our society right now who have been completely taken in by misinformation on the internet or addiction to low quality content, and in place of that they've sort of surrendered their own personality, their own individualism, and now they just passively consume content rather than sort of creating anything new. And so this effectively is the manifestation of that in the form of this bulging, swollen brain on this horrendous monster that continually changes form.